What's up, everybody, and welcome to Podcasting Domination, how to get more listeners and more money starting today. That was, frankly, the catchiest headline that I could come up with for this, because that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do today. My name is Jason Stapleton, and I will take time to explain myself and introduce myself to you fully in just a minute. But first, I really want to get one thing out of the way. If you were wondering, yes, you can create a full-time income from a part-time podcast. You can do it fast, and yes, I can prove it to you. Before I do that, I got to do a couple of things, though. I got to give you my incredibly obvious but necessary disclaimer. In order for me to show you this and to validate it and to prove it to be true to you, I'm going to have to show you some numbers. I'm going to show you some checks that I have received from advertisers, and I'm even going to show you some testimonials of other people who have worked with me in the past and what they have said. But I want you to understand that my results are not even on the same planet as typical, nor are the ones of the people that I'm going to talk with you about. They are the ones who get it and were able to implement it. Please do not take anything I show you today as a guarantee of success. No income claims are being made or inferred. I'm simply showing you what's worked for me and countless other podcasters, but no matter how clear the instruction or how good the advice, the average podcaster will rarely get the same result. And I equate this kind of like how the average person who buys the fitness gizmo on TV rarely ends up looking like the person in the commercial. The common denominator, and this is, I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, this is the truth. The common denominator in all of your success and failures throughout your life has been you. And I am confident that that will be true in podcasting as well. However, I am going to, like I said, try and show you some of the things that I think are really going to help you grow and start monetizing your podcast today. Okay? So, what is in this for you? Well, if you will shut off your cell phone and block out the distractions for the next few minutes, here's the promise that I will make to you. By the end of this presentation, you are going to know exactly what you need to do to 2x, 10x, even 100x your podcast and get paid handsomely in the process. And in order for me to do that, I need one thing from you. I need you to set aside everything you know or you think you know about podcasting and suspend your disbelief at what I'm going to share with you. Because what I'm going to share with you is going to run contrary and counterintuitive to everything that you have been taught about what is important. How many of you, just out of curiosity, have bought podcasting courses before, all of that stuff? I don't even know the answer. I don't need to know the answer, because here's what I do know. I know that this is most likely not your very first podcasting webinar that you've ever sat through. And I would imagine that it is probably not the first time that somebody has made a super big, bold claim like that to you. And if you haven't had any success following the advice that you're finding online, that you're finding from other gurus, you need to understand first and foremost that is not your fault, okay? Most of the people in chat forums and Facebook groups, podcasting gurus, whatever you want to call them, who are offering advice are really no better qualified to be teaching podcasters what they should be doing than they should be performing open heart surgery. With the amount of conflicting and downright bad advice being peddled as gospel, frankly, it's a miracle that you've stuck it out as long as you have. And I want you to take heart, because the fact that you are still here in the face of all of that adversity it gives me a high degree of confidence that you really can succeed at becoming one of the leading podcasters in your niche. That's really what we're talking about. The bar is set extremely low, by the way, folks. It's not a high bar or hurdle to climb. And frankly, it's not that difficult either. But when no one has taught you how to do it correctly, there is a massive amount of misinformation and confusing and conflicting information out there that keeps you from doing what you need to do. And so what I'm going to share with you, if you have already been here, if you've already been a podcaster before, is going to shake the foundations of what you believe. And if by some random chance of fate this happens to be your first time that you've been exposed to podcasting as a business, then count your blessings, because what I'm going to share with you is going to save you months, if not years, of pain and frustration. So let's start out with just A few of the pieces of bad advice that are peddled by so-called experts, by people in these chat forums who have been doing this for a long time. I will make one caveat. See, the fact that you've been doing it a long time doesn't mean you're any good at it. This is one of the shifts that people do in order to have you focused on the wrong things that don't actually produce the outcome that you're looking for. And so you have probably heard one, if not more, of these. First and foremost, start with a great title. Got to have a great title. Why? Because, you need to SEO your title so that when people are searching for it, that it comes up once they start looking for it. And that has almost no measurable effect on the success of your show. For years, my show was called the Jason Stapleton Program, and now it's called Wealth, Power, and Influence. And when it was called the Jason Stapleton Program, I skyrocketed past plenty of people who had libertarian or liberty-minded or freedom-minded sort of podcast titles. The show title has almost no impact at all. Other people will tell you, well, ask your listeners what they want to hear about. So you need to ask folks what they want so that then you can provide it to them. And this is maybe the worst advice that I've ever heard someone give. You should never ask your audience for what they want. And as we go through the program today and I talk with you a little bit more, I'm going to explain why that is. Focus on putting out great content. Again, this seems nonsense to me. The value of your content is determined by each individual listener. It's not determined by you, and it's not determined by a collective. Saying put out great content is like saying, well, if you want to lose weight, eat healthy. You're saying nothing, you're just using words. And so this becomes a real sticking point because they're like, I am putting out great content. Well, yeah, something's wrong. It's not working because people are not, if that was the trick, then you putting out great content would have people flooding in and telling their friends and signing up for your stuff, and none of them are doing that. So that cannot be the issue. Book interesting guests. This is what a lot of people do. Like, man, I got to get the best guests on. I got to get really good guests on, and then I got to really highlight those guests so that they'll share my show. Nope, your audience doesn't tune in because of your guests. But by the time the presentation is over, I will show you what will keep them coming back time and time again that will make them rabid, cult-like followers of your show. Okay? You can start a blog. That's another thing. Well, you need more content out there. You got your audio content, but you need your text content as well. So throw a blog in there. And my response to that is, yeah, because that's why we all got into podcasting, right? So that we could be bloggers. If I wanted to be a blogger, if I wanted to start, I would be a blogger. I wouldn't be a podcaster. I like podcasting. I don't want to have to do blogging. And frankly, it doesn't work that way. So while there are some things that you can do in terms of creating some written content, spending your days blogging or paying for transcripts, which is the next one, get great notes and transcripts, is a fruitless endeavor. And I submit to you the hundreds of thousands of podcasters who follow this script and who still struggle to get and to make ends meet. Okay, almost nobody reads your show notes, and the transcripts, in my opinion, are just an SEO scam. I don't know anybody who's like having wild success with show notes and getting people to come over and subscribe to their podcast. Now, I need you to stick with me, obviously, because you promised me at the beginning of this that you would suspend your disbelief and until I've had a chance to share everything with you. And I know that is harder than it sounds. I basically just fired a lot of stuff at you and set your world on fire because I know a lot of you guys, especially if you've been podcasting for any length of time, are doing a lot of that. And it is tough when you rattle someone's reality. But again, I want to reemphasize that is not your fault. In fact, I was scammed at first too. Okay? When I started my show in 2014, I did what any smart person would do. Okay? I found someone who I thought could teach me how to start and grow a show. I paid that person a couple of $1,000s. I think it was like $19.97 or something to go through their course and their training, and then I followed their advice. Okay? As a successful entrepreneur, I knew I built businesses before, and I knew that I needed to find somebody who could tell me what the right choice was. And I also was at the benefit of something that most podcasters don't have when they start out. Money was absolutely no obstacle to me, as I will explain in a minute. And so when I went looking to start my podcast, I poured myself all in. I spared absolutely no expense. I bought the absolute best of everything. I bought a $3,000 mixing board from Behringer. I had a $3,600 Neumann microphone that you typically only find in high-end music studios. It's really a microphone that's used more for vocals than it is for spoken word. But again, that was the best microphone. Everybody said it was the best one, so I bought it. I paid $800 for a professionally designed artwork for my show, and I spent about $4,800 on a computer to edit the show with. I went about as overboard on getting equipment and stuff as one could do, because I didn't want that to be the issue. One of the things that people told me was, hey, listen, if you have bad audio quality, nobody's going to want to listen to your show because they won't want to listen to bad audio quality. So for me, I was like, well, then I'm just going to get the best of everything. I'm going to get the Behringer mixing board. I got all this other stuff. And then I'm going to go out and I'm just going to follow this prescription that's been laid out for me of all the stuff that I just told you about. And at the end of, after more than 3 months of podcasting, these were my results. This is an actual screen grab from my Libsyn account that I had when I started back in the day. And I was running, 10 downloads a day on maybe 20 an episode, something along those lines. It was absolutely pathetic. And I was a little frustrated with my little 14 downloads or so on average, but I didn't let that discourage me. I've been in business for long enough to know that you really have to kind of find your footing. And what I started looking at is some of the bigger shows out there. Who are the shows that were doing really big numbers? I'm talking like Adam Carolla. I'm talking about Joe Rogan. Who are some of the other guys who are just having bonker-sized shows? WTF podcast. And one of the things that I saw them all doing was they all had studios. They were incorporating video into what they were doing. And so I took a look at what they were building and I thought, dude, I can do way better than that. I'm going to build myself the absolute sickest podcasting studio on the planet. And when people see me and they hear me, it's going to provide me so much authority and so much and so much celebrity that people are going to have to want to know who I am, right? So I dropped $120,000 on a podcasting studio. And you can see some pictures of it here on the left. That's when it was kind of under construction. And then after we got it all done, on the right there, that's my VariZoom camera gimbal or camera crane. I had an actual crane in the studio, and I had a 3-camera shoot, and I even brought another guy who worked for me in to run the camera jib every single day for the show. And at the end of the day, I bought a $20,000 TriCaster, which is a video switching software that they use in television studios and news networks like around the world, what you'd find in like an actual national newsroom. That's what I had in my podcasting studio. I got the professional pictures. This is what my studio looked like when all the lights were on and we had the lighting set right. It was epic. And at the time, my studio was better than Adam Carolla's. It was better than Joe Rogan's. It was better than anything else that I could find on the planet. And I went back into it headfirst thinking, faux show, I was going to be profitable now. I was going to figure out a way to grow my audience. And after almost a year of doing 5 shows a week, keep that in mind. I did 5 days a week, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week from this like sick podcasting studio with my $3,000 microphone and my $20,000 TriCaster video switcher, going out live streaming on all these different services. I got like 400 to 500 downloads every single episode. At this point, I'm doing this now for a year or so, and I remember talking to Darren, the guy who produced my show. He was the guy in the last picture there in the bottom right. He was helping me with the show at the time, and I said, man, dude, I don't know how much longer I can do this show with nobody's listening. And I know what they say. They're like, oh, well, imagine if you had 300 or 400 people in a room. Would you think that nobody was listening then? Well, I'm like, I didn't get 400 people to show up in an event for me. Yeah, if I managed to do that, I feel pretty doggone good about myself. But all I got to do is get somebody to just download and listen. And all I can do is get 400 people after a year and dropping $120,000 on this setup. And I was humiliated. I felt like a fool, but mostly I was angry. I was really, really angry. Angry that I hadn't listened to my gut, because when people were telling me that this was the stuff I had to do, I had a feeling, this just doesn't seem right. It doesn't jive with what I know about building businesses and building brands online. This seems like a waste of time. But these were the very best people in the industry giving me advice. These were the cream of the crop. These were the guys that were doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in revenue. And I'm trying to figure out and mimic what they're telling me to do. And I was angry I'd spent a small fortune and had nothing to show for it. I was angry for failing. And then I decided that if I was going to go down, I was going to go out on my own terms. And I did exactly what I asked you to do at the beginning of this presentation. I set aside everything that everybody had told me, all the stuff that the guys in the groups and that the podcasting gurus and mastermind experts people were telling me to do. And I did what I thought was right. And 1 year later, I had the #1 show on iTunes in my category. My download numbers had jumped from 350 to 400 downloads an episode to over $30,000. And I had made over $150,000 in revenue. Okay? And here's the best part. I only changed 3 things. All right? Do you want to know what they are? Well, good, because I'm going to tell you. But before I do that, I need to talk to you a little bit about what's holding you back. So everything that I just explained to you guys, everything I talked through, the stuff that I share with you, the failures that you've had, has created in the mind, and I know this because I've worked with so many podcasters, a mountain of self-limiting beliefs brought on by bad advice, failure, and confusion. And it's not, if your show is not succeeding, it's not because you don't have the right equipment. All right. It is not because you don't have a massive marketing budget. It is not because you don't have some big name guest that's going to share your show with their audience. It's not because you don't have enough time. And it's not because you haven't built a huge following. The reason that your podcast isn't growing is because these 3 things are not present. Okay. Now, what are they? What do you need to grow your show? Well, the very first thing you have to do is you have to make the show about you. And that ran completely contrary to everything that I had been told. When everybody I had talked to and had heard from and had asked advice from and had been listening to advice from had said, if you book a guest on your show, you gotta really make it about them. You gotta make them look great. You gotta focus your time and attention on them so that then when the show's over, they'll love it so much that they'll go share it with their audience. Their audience will then become aware of you and they'll start listening to your show. But it doesn't work like that. See, people don't show up. People will show up to hear a guest that's on your show, but they stay because they know, like, and trust you. And if you haven't given them any reason and any ability to know, like, and trust you, if you focused all of your time and effort and attention on the guests that are coming to your show, there's no reason for them to stay. If anything, they'll go follow the guest because the guest sounds amazing. And certainly while the guest's listeners will come and listen to your show about them, your guest is the one with the influence and the authority. Your guest is the one who's built deep connection with their audience. And so what do you think happens? The guest comes on, the guest shares the show, people go and listen to it, and then they forget that you were ever there. See, the primary reason for creating a podcast is to build connection with the audience. Now, what we do with that connection after we're done depends on what your goals are. But having that influence, creating that authority, getting that bond of know, like, and trust with that audience is critical. And we have what's called the influence and authority pyramid. And as I walk you up this pyramid, I'll explain a little bit about what each stage is. But at the very top, what we're trying to do with our podcast is we're trying to move ourselves up the influence and authority pyramid. So we start out with a generalist, right? And a generalist, real simply, is just a guy who is a basic guy. So he's a sales guy, non-specific. What do you do? I design. I'm a designer. Okay, well, what do you design? Oh, I design dresses, or I design artwork, or I design buildings, or things like that. You say, well, I'm a salesman. Well, what do you sell? Well, I'm a manager. What do you manage? So at the basic level is we have generalists. And one of the ways I try and explain this is imagine a personal trainer. Walk into a gym, you say, well, I'm a personal trainer. Well, who do you train? Anybody who needs fitness. Complete generalist. That's what I do. One step up from that is a specialist. And a specialist is anybody who confines the work that they do to a specialty. So in the case of a personal fitness instructor, in the case of somebody like that, you might say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a fitness instructor. Well, who do you work with? I'm a personal trainer. Oh, I work with NFL players. Or I work with people over the age of 65 who want to maintain muscle mass and stay healthy in later age. Well, that makes you a specialist. You work with a specific type of person. The higher you move up this ladder, the more money you will make, the more influence you will command, and the more sales, the more listenership, the more whatever you're trying to do, you will have. The goal is to get all the way to the top. Now, what's above specialist? Whoops. Above specialist is an authority figure. And the way we do this, the way we create authority is we take a specialist and we stick them on some kind of stage. That can be an actual physical stage that they're going to walk out onto as they go to speak, but it can also be a virtual stage. It can also be a symbolic stage. Your podcast is a stage. It's a form of you taking your specialty out and finding like-minded people who are interested in what you have to say and your expertise. That is the goal. The goal is to get you on a stage so that people look to you as an authority figure and a person of influence. One step up from that is a celebrity. Now, everybody knows what a celebrity is. Certainly, if you can get to the level of national celebrity, that'd be great. The Joe Rogans of the world, that's fantastic. But you do not need to be one of the top 0.001% of people in the world in order to make a lot of money. When I'm talking about celebrity, I'm talking about niche celebrity. When I started my first company, Trade Empowered, it was a trading education company, and I had no influence at all, no authority. I wasn't known anywhere, and I started putting out videos every week. And slowly but surely, I started to gain authority and celebrity in my little space. Now, if you were not a currency trader who liked technical analysis, a specific type of technical analysis, you didn't have any idea who I was. But if you were exactly the kind of person that I wanted to talk to, if you were exactly the kind of person who was highly likely to want to buy from me or to need my help, then there was no way you could ignore me. I was the most well-known person in my niche, period. Frankly, I probably still am, even though I haven't taught it in years. So what we're going to try and do is, through the podcast, is not only make you an authority figure, but also push you up into that celebrity category where other people in your niche talk about you, look to you, reference you. You can think about this in terms of like if you follow regular radio all the time, like the Sean Hannitys and the Rush Limbaughs of the world. Those are celebrities in their niches. Now, they're very large niches, but you get my point. People look to them. Other radio show hosts and personalities reference them and stuff that they say on their shows. It's a form of celebrity. And then last but not least, if I can do this right, is the celebrity authority. This is the toughest one to get to, but if you manage to do it, the longevity that you will have in your space is infinite. And what I mean by that is a celebrity, as you and I know, is really fleeting. And so we have people who come in and then they come out, and if they get known for something and then nobody ever hears from them again. They don't have the authority attached to their celebrity. And so once people fall out of favor with them, there's nothing for them to fall back on and hang their hat on. When you think of celebrity authorities, think of Dr. Oz. He's a great one. Think of, I'm trying to think of another one. Susie Orman might be another one where you've got financial advisor. She's a notable, she's an authority on the issue of personal finance, and she's also a celebrity. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's a celebrity authority. He's a real estate investor and also a celebrity. These are all people that have reached kind of the pinnacle, and they're the ones that have the greatest staying power. Because although the celebrity might wane from time to time, they have the rooting of an authority figure. And so that's what we're trying to work on here when we build this influence and authority. So you got to make the show about you. You got to spend at least a bit of time on every single show talking about you, telling people about your day, talking to them about your likes, your beliefs, your values, all of those things. If you don't, you're going to lose. Now, number 2 is we got to create higher purpose around our show. What do I mean by that? People have an overwhelming desire to believe in something. Become the focal point of such desire by offering them a cause, a new faith to follow. This is from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power, which if you have not read, you really must. It is an amazing book with so many insights on how we communicate with one another, how we interact with one another, how we gain power and authority and influence, and how we lose it. But a lot of people struggle with this. They struggle with how do you practically apply this? It's one of the things that I spend a lot of time with my clients on is they say, well, Jason, but I'm not an accountant. I don't sell business stuff. I'm just trying to do my show on autism because I'm a mom who loves autism, who has an autistic kid. And I'm trying to raise awareness for that and help other moms and stuff with their autism. So I want to give you an example of how this might work, so that you have a step-by-step blueprint for it. So you want to write these down if you can, because I'm going to move quick. First of all, is you got to explain the situation and what is at stake. Okay, so what is it, the bigger than life, the larger than life thing, the movement that you're trying to portray? So, I'll give you, for example, on the autistic stuff. So if you're a mom who has a podcast for autistic kids, you're saying, well, how would I do this? Well, it's pretty simple. Instead of saying, well, I have a podcast that helps moms and parents understand autistic children so that their kids can live happier, fuller lives and moms can have less stress. Okay, that's fine, but there's nothing grandiose about that, is there? But with a small tweak to what we believe, we can create some of that for our audience. So, for example, if I was going to be doing an autistic podcast for moms, I'd say something along the lines, I am here to change the way we think about and work with autistic children. I am here to save your child's life, to transform your relationship and to transform your home. Because all the homes that are in that have autistic kids, they know how difficult it can be to really just to exist with the struggle of not understanding and being really difficult. So you make it bigger than life. I'm on a mission. We are on a mission. Okay. Second thing, explain the specific role the person can play in the situation. So what is their role? Emphasize the importance of that role. Point out how the person is uniquely qualified for the role. Openly acknowledge that your request will require sacrifice on their part, and then ask if you can count on them. Now, I'm going to give you just a second. I'm going to talk for a minute, and then I'm going to actually walk you through how I do this on my show. And then you can work on your own to kind of modify it for your own benefit. But these are the steps for creating higher purpose in anything that you do. This would be the same if we were going to create a product. And I wanted to create a movement around the product, and I wanted the product to be something bigger than just buy my stuff. This is exactly the format that I would go through to do that. Now, let's look at the practical application. I'll read this to you, and every one of these little bits is in there. So I know you've heard me say this is something that I would say on my show if I wanted to reinforce the concept of higher purpose. So I know you've heard me say this before, but we have new people joining our ranks every day, and I want you to know exactly what's at stake. Earlier this year, a lot of people woke up to the realization that they had been living a lie. They thought they had a good job, a steady paycheck, and a guaranteed income. Overnight, they went from feeling in control to completely helpless. You and I knew this day was coming, and we spent the last 2 years warning as many people as we could. Now it's more important than ever that you take this message out to your friends and neighbors, because things are going to get worse before they get better. What do you tell them? Take control of your income. Focus on building nomadic wealth so that you can have real freedom in your life. There is no one better suited to do this than you. You are here every day, listening, learning, and applying the principles in your life. I've always said that if you listen to this show for 2 weeks, you're going to be better informed than anyone else you know. We are in the business of saving lives, and as weird as that sounds, that's the way I want you to think about it. Those are the stakes. That's why I can't let you sit on the sidelines. I cannot do this without you. And I know it's not going to be easy. I realize how much I'm asking of you. But I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. I am here every day preaching this message, and I need you to do the same in your neighborhood. Will you do that? Will you stand with me? That is the practical way to apply higher purpose to what you do. And I don't care what business you are in. I don't care what your podcast is about. There is a way for you to create higher purpose in that movement. Of the hundreds of podcasters that I have worked with over the years, I have never found a single one where we could not create some sort of higher purpose that brings people together and gives them a sense of place and a sense of purpose. Okay? What's the last thing? Tell your audience what you want them to do. See, as a person of authority, as someone that people are coming to listen to take advice from, to learn from, you have a responsibility to direct your audience on the best course of action. This can be both their own benefit and for yours. Hopefully it's both of you. Hopefully whatever you're asking them to do is going to be in their best interest and it's going to be in your best interest. So start thinking about what exactly is it that you want them to do. Do you want to subscribe to your show? Or get on your email list, maybe leave a rating and review. That's kind of funny. I had a buddy of mine a few years ago, and he said to me, he's like, man, dude, how did you get so many ratings and reviews? You got like 300 of them. How'd you do that so quickly? I've been doing my show like 3 times as long as you, and I've only got 5. And I said, well, have you asked them to go do it? He goes, what do you mean? I mean, like on your show, have you asked them to go and like do it? Have you asked them to go and do it, leave a rating and review? He goes, oh, no. I said, well, why don't you try that? At the end of the show, why don't you just say, hey, if you like the show, go leave me a rating and review. I'd be really nice. He's like, you think people will do it? I said, it can't hurt. Wouldn't you know it? He comes back to me like a week later and he's like, dude, I got 40 ratings and reviews. I said, nice, how much that works. Oh, and by the way, the rating and reviews on your show has far more to do with your success and your podcast success than even something like getting into new and noteworthy, which is another thing that has absolutely no value to you on your show and should be completely ignored. Your ranking inside of iTunes is actually not important at all. You want to shout out, share the show with a friend, ask them to do it. You want to buy a product or donate to your cause? Dude, just tell them to do it. When we have created a sense of connection, when people know, like, and trust us, when they now look to us for help and as an authority figure and someone who is to be listened to and followed, all of a sudden now they put themselves into a position where they've said, listen, I want this person to tell me what to do. I need the advice. That's why I keep coming back. I enjoy the content that this person puts out. And if he tells me to do something, whether it's subscribe to the show or donate to a cause or buy a particular product, well, guess what? I'm going to listen to him because I got a lot of respect. There's a lot of trust that's been built there. And that's critically important. If you will change those three things of your show, if you will start focusing, kill everything else. I don't care whatever else you're doing, get rid of all of that stuff and just do those three things. Make the show about you, create a higher purpose, and lead and direct your audience of what you want them to do. I guarantee you your show numbers are going to explode. This will take time. It will take effort on your part to get it right. You'll try some stuff and it won't work. You have to try something different. But I promise you, if you focus on those three things and those three things exclusively, you are going to you're going to see a radical change in the number of people who listen to your show and the number of people who will give you money. Now, let's talk about the getting of the money. There are actually three different methods for generating revenue, and depending on how big your show is, one or all of the three of these will work exceedingly well. Okay, so monetization method number one is donations. This works well for nonprofits, educations, political shows, or shows where you don't really have a product or a service, and people are listening really just because they enjoy the show and they find value in the work that you're producing. Okay. But this does work for any show that does a good job of creating higher purpose. And the greater the sense of purpose, the greater the sense of belonging, the greater the obligation that one feels towards you and the show, the more likely they will be to donate. And that's why I say a lot of times people ask for donations and nobody donates. And it's because they don't feel a sense of obligation or higher purpose to what you're doing. When they realize that, hey, we really are on a mission here to do X, Y, and Z, they are much more likely to donate to you than had you not done that. Okay, it can be used to start generating revenue from day one of your show. And the best thing that you can possibly do is use this revenue to pay your hosting equipment and advertising cost. So I'm going to tell you and explain to you in a minute how I would go about finding people and using some of this money to advertise on other shows. But for right now, this is really what I want you to understand. We're not really going to spend this money on us. We're going to spend this money and reinvest it on the show. So if you are brand new or you have a very small following of just a handful of listeners, maybe it's 300 or 500 listeners, maybe it's 100, whatever it is, you should immediately start creating that higher purpose and then asking for donations. And any money that you get back in, you should immediately roll back into paying the bills and getting your podcast to break even, and then adding advertising revenue by going out to other shows and asking to advertise on their shows. So this is how I do that on my show. Well, I don't do donations anymore because now we have more than our numbers are big and we make a ton of money on advertising and on other stuff. So I don't do this anymore. But when I did, this was exactly the script I followed. It went something like this. All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening to the show. But before I go, I just wanted to remind you that this show survives because of the donations and generosity of people just like you. Whether it's $1, $5, or $500, every little bit helps. And here's the promise I'll make to you. No, not one red cent of your donations will go into my pocket. Every dollar you donate will go back into the show to improve the quality and the reach of our message. So please go to www.donatetomything.com and help me spread the message. See how much more palatable that request is when you've done a good job of creating higher purpose, when people feel as though they're getting a great deal of value from your show and that the world is benefiting from the work that you're doing. Not only is there an obligation to come and listen, but there also is a sense of obligation to donate and give to the cause that is your show. And this works. The one regret that I have, well, one regret I had was not listening to my gut from the beginning when I started my show. And I had to go all over a year without really making any money or growing the show at all. But more importantly, the other thing that I would have done differently is I would have started asking for donations from day one. When I had 5 listeners, I'd have been asking for donations because it doesn't matter how much money comes in. It's better than no money coming in. Okay. Monetization method number 2, we got advertising, and we got 2 different options for that. First one is joint venture and affiliate advertisers. Okay. This one is best for shows with less than 6,000 to 10,000 listeners per episode. And advertisers will either pay you a fee, either pay you in free products, or as a percentage of the lead sale that comes in. So a couple examples of this: when I was very new and I didn't have very many listeners at all, I really loved drinking coffee, and there was a brand new coffee company out called Black Rifle Coffee that really blended well with my show. I reached out to them and I said, hey guys, I tried some of your coffee, which I had, and I said, I love it. I would love to give you guys free advertising on my show. I will read, 3 ads a week for your Black Rifle Coffee if you will send me some coffee every month. And I didn't even put I didn't put a number on it. I just said, just send me some coffee and I'll advertise for you. And every month they agreed. Every single month they sent me 3 pounds of coffee. And that was the deal we had. And we had that deal for years. We had that deal. Every month, without fail, 3 bags of coffee would show up. The second one was Swiss America. And when my show was still very new and we weren't big enough to start getting regular advertisers, I heard an advertisement for Swiss America, which is a gold company on the radio. And I thought, I bet they'd be a good advertising partner for us. So I called them up, or I sent them an email, to the head of their advertising. And I said, hey, my name's Jason Stapleton, and I've got this show, and here's what it's about. And I think that my audience would want what you guys sell, which is gold. And I said, do you guys do any joint ventures, or do you have any affiliate links that I could use? And she said, well, we don't do joint venture stuff. They said, but we will pay you $40 for every lead that you send us. And a lead to them was a name, email address, and a phone number. And I thought, holy smokes, that sure beats $5 or $10 a month from somebody for being a subscriber to the show or donating to the show. And so I started reading Swiss America ads at $40 a pop and was making thousands of dollars every single month just off of Swiss America, and sending them over. And they would send me this check every single month of all the people who had signed up because of my show. It was really great. And then option 2 is what we call Cpm Advertising. These are best for shows that are over 10,000 listeners, or about 10,000 and beyond. It's getting a little bit cheaper now. We can squeeze down a little bit, especially if you're in a specific kind of niche, but 10,000 is kind of the safe area. In this case, advertisers pay a fee on the number of average listeners. And to give you an idea, $20 to $25 per 1,000 is typical. So if you have a 10,000 person show, and then an advertiser would pay anywhere between $200 to $250 for a 60-second advertisement on your show. These are typically personal endorsements, which means you also get a lot of free stuff, because if you want to advertise somebody's shoes, or, I have an Echelon bike, which is basically like a Peloton bike that I've got for free. I have so much free stuff that I've gotten from advertisers who want me to try their product before I advertise it. And then I get the benefit of the advertising dollars and the free stuff. It's pretty cool. Got free mattresses, free couches, all kinds of junk. And to give you an idea of just how big these checks can get, I don't normally keep check stubs, but for some reason I found these in a drawer from early last year or whatever, and it's like $11,000, $10,000, $15,000. These checks can be significant. And all you have to do is grow that audience and build that tribe using the 3-step process that I just laid out to you today. That's all I did, guys. I did nothing else than that. It's that simple. And as your show grows, you become more attractive to advertisers, and those advertisers will pay you more and more money. Now, again, keep in mind, results not typical. Most people don't know how to do this, and most people won't do it, which is why most people won't get the result. But this has been my result, and I wanted to share it with you to show you exactly what is possible. Okay? Now, the third monetization process is digital products and consulting. And this is by far the most lucrative revenue stream that my podcast generates for me. And so we have things like books and ebooks. I wrote the Nomadic Wealth Formula. If you guys have heard about that, we've already sold hundreds and hundreds of copies of it. We've got subscriptions and memberships, courses and paid trainings, live events and seminars, and consulting services. All of that stuff is kind of wrapped up in your podcast. And the people who come and listen to you, because of the relationship you built and because of the expert status and the authority status that you have established, the folks really do want to learn from you. They want to know more. And if you will simply offer them a chance to go one level deeper with you, they will. So to give you an idea of some of the stuff that I do in my business, I have the Knowledge Revolution course and my Platinum Mastermind group. I have a trading mastery program, and I did an influential communication and workshop that I did for a bunch of people on how to write better. And then I have my podcasting domination course. And this year alone, I pulled some of the stats from just a few of the funnels that we've got. And there's about, just right here alone, and this is just a small segment of the stuff that I'm doing, there's about a little over $200,000 in revenue just from those funnels. And that doesn't include any of the revenue that we generated from advertising or anything like that. It's a wonderful business to be in, honestly, to be able to sit around and just talk about stuff that you love and teach people stuff that you know about. It's a pretty incredible business to be in. And not only that, but it's also a nomadic business, meaning you can go and work it anywhere, from anywhere on earth, as long as you got an internet connection. So to kind of wrap this all up, what do you need to do? Well, first, you need to keep a constant focus and attention on you. You need to create higher purpose around your show. Once you've established that, you need to ask people to donate to the cause. You need to reinvest the money that people donate by advertising on other people's shows where your audience would be. I guarantee you're not the only person who talks about what you do. There are other people and other shows, and many of them would love to have a few extra bucks in advertising and would talk to you about letting you advertise on their show. That's one of the ways I grew my show. I reinvested all my donations back into the show and bought advertising space on other small shows. Tell your audience what you want them to do. Once you've got control, tell them what you want them to do, and then find some joint venture and affiliate partners who would be a good fit and start running a few ads to bring in some revenue. And then finally, develop some physical or some digital products that you can promote. Now, if you guys want some help with this, I have a course, as I said, called the Podcasting Domination course, where I'm going to take everything that we just talk about and break it down in painstaking detail, okay? And in week 1, we're going to talk about all the basics. This is all the stuff that most people talk about when they run their podcasting course. This is the extent of most podcasting courses. They'll talk about microphones and mixers and how to set up a Facebook fan page to kind of create some tribe and all the stuff that you need to know before you launch. And then as a special bonus in week 1, I'm also going to give you my recommendations for gear that you should buy based on your budget. So if you got like a zero budget, I can give you some stuff for that. If you got a meager budget, I got different stages of stuff that I'm going to recommend to you based on the money that you have. Then in week 2, we're going to build your confidence. I'm going to show you how to make the show about you without coming off as arrogant using what I call the hero status framework. And a lot of people are really self-conscious about focusing on them all the time. And frankly, I really am too. I would prefer not to do it, but I like having a large following and I like money way too much to not do it. And so is there a way that you can do it without coming off as arrogant or pretentious? Yeah, there is. And I'm going to teach you the strategy for that. I'm going to help you develop what I call an origin story so that you can gain trust and affinity with your audience. In order for people to know, like, and trust you, they got to know a little bit about you. They got to know where you come from. They got to know what you're about and what your beliefs are. And I'm going to help you flush that out so that you can develop a caricature or a brand that people can become attached to. I'm going to talk about where podcasting is going in the future so that you can stay ahead of the industry. And I'm going to run through the 5 main podcasting frameworks used by all the top podcasters. And then we'll talk about which one is right for you as well. In week 3, we're going to go into mind hacking, and I'm going to help you develop your higher purpose. This is, like I said, this is a difficult thing for some people to do. Some people, they kind of get it, but other people kind of struggle with it. And I'm going to help you develop that higher purpose so that you can both increase your retention and start earning revenue while turning your listeners into disciples. Because that's what happens when we do a good job of creating higher purpose. Not only do people stay, they also turn to others and they become not just listeners, but active disciples for what it is that you're doing. And this, of course, increases your revenue as well. Then I'm going to start talking about the core concepts of psychology and influence so that you can have greater control over your audience. I'm going to teach you a lot of the subtle techniques that really good podcasters use and really good salespeople and influencers use in order to gain control and lead and direct their audience. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to make your message, how you make your messaging ideas stick by wrapping them in stories. Okay, so people do not remember facts and figures. You're not going to really remember the bullet lists of stuff that I gave you here today, but I guarantee you, you will remember the stories that I tell. And your audience is going to remember the stories over anything else that you teach them or tell them. I'm going to teach you how to do that. In week 4, we're going to talk about building your tribe. I'm going to show you how to create a sense of place and belonging where your listeners feel as though that's their home. Because again, that's something we want to do, right? We want to create this community and this tribe around your podcast. There's a specific way to do it and to do it right. I'm going to show you how you can use Facebook and Twitter to build that tribe and to build that community. And then when it comes to interviews, I'm going to show you how to go after the right kind of people for you and also how to interview, because it is a big problem for people who get other guests. A lot of times they'll get big guests, but they don't do it right. See, interviewing isn't just about highlighting the guest, as I spoke to before. It's also a way to increase your celebrity and authority. And when you target your interviews correctly, not only does the person you're interviewing go away feeling as though they got a lot of good face time and they got their message out, but your authority and credibility and celebrity is also increased. So we're going to spend some time talking about that. Then I'm going to show you the best ways to market your show using free stuff and the stuff that costs money. So both paid advertising and guerrilla marketing. So these are the stuff, hey, I don't have a budget, but I'm going to start doing my donations thing. So then how do I go out and how do I do it? We're going to learn all of that in week 4. Then in week 5, show me the money, baby. We're going to talk about JV and affiliate partnerships, how to negotiate sales, and how to keep your advertisers happy. We're going to talk about the step-by-step process that I have used to generate thousands of dollars a month in donations and that I turned around and then used to grow my show. And we're going to talk about the basics of digital products and how to use them to generate sales. So I'm basically going to take you through my entire back end and teach you exactly how I have created all of these different revenue streams, including the scripts that I've used and the process I've used to go about it. Then in week 6, we're going to talk about video podcasting. I know you guys got it. Everybody thinks it's expensive and it's complicated. It ain't. And I'm going to show you what equipment I use and what I would recommend for you based on your budget. I'm going to show you the tools that I use to record and stream my video podcast all over the internet. And just a hint, if you're really worried about how much that stuff costs, it's super cheap. You do not need a $20,000 TriCaster to stream live. We do some very professional stuff with a product that costs about $79, and that's a one-time fee. It's fantastic. And then I'm going to show you how to capture your listeners' email addresses and build connection through email. Having one vertical is never enough. We want contact information from the people who are listening so that we can continue to reach out to them in a different vertical. And email is still arguably the very best way to do that. Then I'm going to teach you a little bit about ManyChat and how I use this really fantastic tool to send personal messages and promotions through Facebook. Open rates and click-through rates on ManyChat are really insane, absolutely insane. And guys, you get the whole program. I'll give you the whole thing, $495 or 6 monthly installments of only $9.99. Matt is going to drop you the link right this very minute so that you guys can begin. I do have some bonuses for you that I want to tell you about. But before I get to those, I want to just tell you about Emily. She's somebody who's been through my podcasting course, and she just said before she started, she knew nothing about how to start a podcast or any of the steps, and she said the course was excellent, and she says that she highly recommends the course to anybody who's interested in doing that. And so I would advise you to really think about where you want. You've invested a lot of time, a lot of energy into your show. And I don't want that time doesn't have to be wasted. You don't have to continue to beat your head against the wall. Let me help you grow the show. Let me help you learn some of the reasons why it's not growing and help you do some of the things and modify it for your podcast. There are nuances with every single show, and I'm going to help you work through that. Okay, but let me talk to you about some of the bonuses. So here's bonus one. It's my Headline Hacks PDF and video training. I am a pretty decent copywriter. No, I'm a good copywriter. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 27 time-tested headlines from master copywriters that you can use to write show titles that fascinate. So I'm going to give you some plug and play headlines, and then I'm going to show you how you can use those same headline hacks to write really killer show headlines. If you think about a good advertisement or a good sales copy, the headline's the most important thing. Well, your show title is the most important thing in your podcast. Like the weekly, the daily show titles are the most important thing. They're the subject line of your email copy. Right? They're the headline of your sales copy. You have to be able to do this well, and if you do it well, you'll increase the number of clicks and increase the number of people who are paying attention to you and listening every day. Okay? The second thing I'm going to give you is my guest request playbook. I have been lucky enough to have some pretty phenomenal guests on my show. One of which was, I spoke about him earlier, is Adam Carolla. I'm going to give you the exact request template that I used for Adam Carolla to book him on my show right after he did the 24-hour day or something like that. I can remember. It's about the Le Mans racetrack thing. Boy, I really butchered that, didn't I? But anyway, I'm going to give you the guest request playbook that I use to get really great guests and to book them on my show. Third thing that you're getting is my advertiser outreach email swipe. So when you are reaching out to potential advertisers, be it folks that you want to just pay you on a CPM basis and those who you want to do JV or affiliate deals with, I'm going to give you the exact email copy that I send to those people if I want them to be advertisers on my show. I'm going to show you how to do it, and then all you do is you just insert, a company's name and insert the different stuff where you need to put it and email it off. It's very, very plug and play. Okay. The next thing, bonus number 4, I'm giving you full access for a complete month to my private social network. I actually have my own social network similar to Facebook that has no advertising on it, that has no garbage. It's nothing but my clients, hundreds of my clients who come every single day to share knowledge, share resources, to share what's working and what isn't, and to build a community that supports each other. This is maybe my favorite thing that I've built in all these years, because I've always wanted a place where we could come and you could have nothing but people who wanted to support you, who wanted to see you be successful, who celebrated every win that you had, and where there were no distractions with other news garbage and other stuff filling up your feed with family photos and all that other stuff where you got distracted. This is your home of where you're going to go and meet the people who are going to help you get exactly where you want to go. And then last but not least, bonus 5, I'm going to give you weekly coaching calls with me personally every week for the next month on Wednesday, which is in a couple of days. I am going to sit down with you, and for an hour, I'm going to do a Q&A session with you. I typically start out each one of these sessions with a little work on mindset and mental clarity, because I think that as new entrepreneurs and podcasters that are struggling, man, having a good mindset is really important. And then after that, I open it up to the floor, and you can ask me literally anything you want to. We'll talk about sales copy. We talk about concepts for influence and persuasion. We talk about different strategies, tools, and things that I use in my business to help me grow and manage all the processes I've got going on. Literally everything is on the table, and it's a chance for you to come and work with me personally to help you get your podcast to where you want it to be. Okay. Now there's a lot of stuff here, so I want to recap. Okay. Oh, hang on. I got a problem here. What is going on here? Oh, There we go. So first we got the Podcasting Domination course. Then you got the Guest Request Playbook. I'm going to give you my podcast advertising email swipe file. You're going to get my headline hacks, both the PDF with the 27 variations and also the headline hacks video series where I'm going to walk you through each one of them and explain why they work. You're going to get access for a full month to my private social network full of all of my clients and business associates. And I'm going to give you a month of training sessions, of group coaching sessions with me personally, all for just $495. And now I don't do a lot of like testimonials and stuff because I think it's kind of cheesy for me to sit here and read testimonials about myself, but I also don't want you to I don't want you to take my word for it. So I pulled a couple of folks from my LinkedIn page, people who left me reviews. This one comes from Donald. Donald is a client of mine who owns a chocolate company. He makes chocolate that is, that's allergy free. So kids can have, and it's really good. Most allergy chocolate is just awful. And he creates some really delicious chocolate. And he said, Jason's able to break down incredibly complex business and marketing concepts in such a way that I am able to not only understand the underlying principles, but easily absorb and retain them as well. I recommend Jason without hesitation for a laundry list of marketing skills and abilities. The man adds value wherever he goes, and he thrives and excels at helping other people succeed. And I really appreciate him saying that. It's humbling for sure. Alex, another one of my clients, he's been a client for about 5 years. Great guy. Says ridiculous value is a phrase that comes to mind when I think about Jason. I've had the pleasure of considering him a mentor for about 5 years. He said the secret X factor is Jason's fundamental understanding of business strategy, influence, and human behavior. When your expertise in the fundamentals is of that caliber, the advice, guidance, and strategies that can come that you can provide in almost any scenario is invaluable. And what we're really talking about with podcasting, and the reason I pulled this out for you guys, is podcasting is really, as I said, about influence and authority. If you understand how it is done and you do it right, you cannot help but succeed. And what you really have to do is you have to understand what it is you're supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, most people don't. And I can take an hour out of my day tonight to tell you what you need to do. But to actually guide you through it takes more time than that. And so that's why I'm kind of giving you the 50,000 foot view here and then telling you, hey, if this is of interest, if this is making sense and resonating with you, well, then come and work with me and let's work to sort of manage your specific show and model what we're talking about for your specific podcast. Bruce McGee has been around with me for a long time. He said there are a few people that come into your life that you can truly say, I trust this person. Jason Stapleton happens to be one of those people that I would trust anywhere, anytime and anywhere. Wealth of information. I mean, you can continue reading that, but that's my favorite one. I mean, honestly, if you, for a guy to come to you and say, listen, I trust this guy implicitly. Whatever he said, I would believe. He's a great guy. And he said, if you're looking to start, expand, or increase your knowledge about starting, maintaining, and building a successful business, Jason is your go-to guy. And I got to tell you, folks, your podcast is a business. That's what it is. And so if you start thinking about it like that and looking at it from that context, not only are your show numbers going to grow, but the money is going to follow as well. And then last but not least is Caleb. Caleb says, I cannot recommend Jason enough. Using his courses, I have radically changed my life in the past 2 years. By following what Jason teaches, I have gone from flat broke in April of 2019 to running a profitable online mobile business business today. I now have more freedom than I have ever thought possible. For example, my wife and I decided one morning that it would be fun to just pack it up and go to the mountains of Colorado for a bit. So that's what we did. I can move my business anywhere with an internet connection, nomadic wealth, and that's pretty cool. Let me be very clear. None of that would have been possible without Jason. He's the best in the game. And while I'm very humbled by that, Caleb, but that's really what we're after. That's what a podcast is. It is a business that is mobile. You go where you want to go, you're with who you want to be with, and you do things on your schedule. It's a beautiful, beautiful business. Now, Let's talk about the money for a minute. It may seem expensive to some of you, but for the right person, this program is going to pay for itself. Let me explain what I mean. Course investment, like I said, it's $495. The average number of podcast listeners per episode, about 500 people, okay? Now, if all you do is use the donation monetization method, just ask people to give you a little bit of money for your show, and you do a good job of building that higher purpose, and you get a meager 10% of those people, 50 folks to give you $50 a month, that's $3,000 a year, okay? That is a 505% return on investment in your first year alone. And all you got to do is just change those three things. So you guys know what you need to do, guys. Go ahead, enroll now, join in the course. Let me work with you for the next month to get your podcast where you need to go, to build out your higher purpose, to help you frame up who you are and how you tell your story so you raise the trust and likability factor with you on your show. And then let me work with you to message so that you can begin to take control of your audience and lead them and direct them to what you want them to do. And while you're doing that, I will go ahead and answer some of your questions. So if you have a question,